Here we go.
Hey. Yes. We gotta make sure we get your girl up in this pace. Yes, we are here. Welcome.
What's going on, good people?
Welcome. You have to leave the screen, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome, guys. Kurt and Keena are here.
Trying something a little different today.
We're going to give you guys some time to log on. So we are live on all platforms.
Yes, we are live on Facebook and YouTube.
And Instagram. Hey, Raina.
And Instagram.
Hey, Sunshine.
So today, Keena had a great idea. And she wanted to, as you probably saw in the description, we got a few questions that we're going to answer today from a business perspective. But if you got any questions, we're going to answer questions.
I want to just ask everybody on Instagram, are we sideways or are we right side up? Because I had to do something different with my phone so we could fit in the screen. So if you guys can see us and we're right side up for you on Instagram, give me a thumbs up. Oh, I'm sideways. Okay, so I'm going to have to flip my phone. I thought if I started off sideways that it would automatically go the right way, but obviously not. So I'm going to have to flip my phone. But I was trying to get us both in the phone.
So while you're doing that, if you have, we got some submitted questions that we're going to answer. But if you have any business entrepreneurship questions, we are going to take them tonight.
Let's move your mic. You know, I got to be the boss up in this situation. Hey, y'all. How are you? Listen, we are, first of all, welcome to our live podcast. We took a break from podcasting for a little minute. We've been busy. And so we're finally back. So welcome to this late broadcast, because y'all know we don't really do lives this late. We normally try to do them at like 7:00, but it is super late. But we're inspired to be here. We get a lot of questions from entrepreneurs
and soon to be
entrepreneurs. And so we thought it would be a great time to come on and answer some of these frequently asked questions. Right. And so you guys can also feel free to drop your question down in the comments, and we'll also answer your questions as well. But we do have, like Curtis said, we have some pre-submitted questions, and we are going to get right into it.
So you ready for the first question?
Well, let's see. Since we're streaming on a couple different
well, I don't see any questions
platforms. So I'm like,
yet. We're learning this new technology.
Are we seeing the comments? So I know my boy is here, Sean. Are we supposed to see?
I think the comments come up over.
Are we supposed to see the comments, Sean? This is so different. This is definitely different. But guys, technology is what it is. You got to get with the times with your business. So we are like live on our Facebook page, our Kurt and Keena Facebook page, which a lot of you guys have not gone to and friended us because y'all like to watch us on my page. And I'm trying to get y'all to go to the other page. Right. So we've been working on that for quite some time. And we also have viewers watching us from YouTube. So, hey, everybody on YouTube.
YouTube land, Facebook land.
Our YouTube family has been taking our Kingdompreneurship classes.
Yes.
We've been doing those pre-recorded, but we get all of your questions. We get all of your comments, and we are so blessed and grateful for you guys tuning in and watching and learning something, from these classes that we've been doing. So anyway, I don't think, Sean said, yes, we should see.
Okay. So no, we don't have any questions.
Okay. So right now we don't have any questions.
So we're going to start with our pre-submitted questions.
Okay.
And if you guys have a question, we're going to just sit on here and answer questions.
And guess what? Your question, if you have one.
Dumb question.
It's no dumb question.
Nope.
No dumb questions. Any question's a great question. We will not throw you under the bus
Nope.
when answering the question. So don't be afraid. Just drop your question. Let's get it.
So which one of these questions do you want to start with?
Because
Because you haven't seen these before. We just cut this camera.
Let's go with number 2 first, and then kind of work our way.
So here go the question.
Right.
How do I transition into entrepreneurship? So we kind of lay this up. So you have someone who was working full time, COVID may have happened, and now they're saying, look, I know I need to be doing some entrepreneurship of some sort. How do I even start that process? Mm-hmm. Would you like to go, or would you like me to answer this question?
Go ahead. Get started.
First. Well, let's talk about it from this perspective. Most people who are trying to or contemplating entrepreneurship, none of us normally start out working for ourselves. So when I normally explain this question, or normally I get this question a lot, I normally answer it two ways. You can either start off moonlighting, meaning you work your 9 to 5, and you start with probably it's going to start off as a side hustle in the evening. Then at some, and I'm gonna walk you through this whole scenario, and then at some point you get to a point where you can walk away from your job completely. And I'm gonna talk about, from personal experience and what I've seen, the pros and cons of both. So let's just say, for example, for our example here, in the example is not important as much as the concept. So let's just say for our example here that you got someone, I'll use you. You got someone who wants to be a salon owner, or they want to start a lawn care business. Take whatever business I use and substitute your own in.
Okay. So
you have someone who they want to start their own salon. Maybe they got a 9 to 5. Maybe they work for an insurance company, or maybe they're in the salon. Whatever the situation is, they decide that they want to venture out on their own. What most of us do, we start working on nights and weekends, and we get to the point where we develop enough clientele to at some point make a leap. Now, regardless of how strong your client base may be, at some point you got to just take the jump. So, because here's the problem: as long as you stay on that 9 to 5, now I'm not telling anyone to abandon their jobs prematurely, but as long as you got that 9 to 5 going, it's going to be very challenging to grow the company. Here's the reality: you go to work from 8 to 5 for someone else. You're exchanging time for money. They're giving you a paycheck in exchange for you giving your time. By the time you get home, more than likely, you are very, very tired. So what often happens is when we find people who have part-time hustles, the quality often, most of the time, suffers. Not because you're a bad entrepreneur, but because you serving two masters. You got your job that pays you, and now you got this dream that you're trying to start, and you're finding yourself, we only have 24 hours in the day, and you find yourself still trying to keep your job and trying to get this venture off the ground. But what normally happens is when you try to get your venture started, your venture suffers because you put all your energy into another person's initiative. This is human nature. It doesn't make you a bad person, but I need you to understand that you're gonna have to really, really be very understanding of your time and commit yourself appropriately, because you could, even before you get out the gate, you could give your company a bad reputation. And not because you're trying to, but because your number one obligation is to your job. And now you're trying to get this new venture off. And in trying to get your new venture off, the customer service may not be where it could be. You're tired. You might not have returned the phone call, so you might not be timely. So it gets to a point where your company gets to a certain level of critical mass. And now you have to make a decision. Do I jump? And the question is not if I jump, but when. And the companies that you got on your, I'm gonna call them your side hustle, that you want to become your full hustle, will not get to that point until you leap. Here's the reality: you're giving 40 hours to someone else. You're not marketing your company 40 hours a week. You're not going out generating new sales leads. You're not looking for capital. It's a lot of things that could be happening at 40 hours, but you're playing this balancing act between two jobs. So until you get enough revenue, and if you have a spouse or partner, it gets a little more complicated. because although this may be what you want to do, you are now trying to do this balancing act of keeping the household together, keeping husband or wife together, depending on who the entrepreneur is, and still trying to move this venture. So I'm going to say this. If you can get to a point, if you know you're going to quit, if you can get to the point where you can kind of create you a soft landing, I put enough money up, or my husband takes on a more active role, or my wife, whomever it is, can actually kind of create a soft landing. So when you jump, it's not as scary. But the reality is that company that you got on the side is not going to reach the fruition that you want it to until you take the leap. At some point, you got to take the faith walk. And the number one drug in America today is a 9-to-5. We get stuck on those paychecks on the 7th and the 22nd, or the 1st and the 15th. And that creates a lot of fear. So I tell people the biggest thing you have to overcome if you're going to make the leap into entrepreneurship is getting free from the shackle of a steady paycheck. And that sounds scary. And for a lot of us, it was. I mean, I remember when I leaped, it was hard. You know, you get used to seeing your check every other week. That's how we got paid. Got used to seeing your check every other week. And now that security blanket is gone, it turns into a complete faith walk.
Absolutely. Well, I can say I've done the transition into entrepreneurship, and I want to say I felt as if I had to have the ultimate commitment to building a clientele, because I knew what I wanted my end goal to be. So before I even started it, I goaled myself and I gave myself 6 months to transition.
Now, why 6 months? Because some people are thinking about this. I
gave myself 6 months because I needed time to save. I needed time to stack money. I also did my research and figured out how much money I needed to, do what it was that I wanted to do in the salon. And I also needed to make sure I had a nest egg, a stash to make sure I could pay all of my bills, like my rent at the time I was renting. And I was able to save the amount that I would need to pay for my rent and utilities and things of that nature.
Pause. Because see, most of us didn't grow up with wealthy parents.
Right.
So you say, well, man, Kurt, I'm working 9 to 5. I got just enough money to, take care of my family, juniors in daycare. I got cars, I got mortgages. I'm going to tell you what I did. And I want you to come back, because you got some people that are disciplined enough and may have enough access to do what Keena just said.
That's true.
That was not my story. I had 2 kids in private school. I had a wife who had lost her job. Y'all heard my story. My late spouse passed away in 2014. But at this point, when I started saying I was going to be an entrepreneur, I had a wife who was a 6-figure earner who was laid off. The company went through a merger and acquisition, meaning another company came and bought them. And when they bought them, there was a duplication of duty. She was a CFO. She was a controller. She ran the finances for this large corporation. So her job went away because of the merger and acquisition. So I have a wife who was making 6 figures, who's at home. I have 2 kids in private school at this time. And I'm the only one working. So we literally went from 2 6-figure earners, and one of those 6 figures is gone. So our lifestyle was 6 figures, 2 6-figure earners.
Got it.
So I did not have at that point in my life, and I tell this story because I know everybody's in different spots, but I did not have at that point in my life the flexibility that you had to save 6 months of savings. I didn't. So I'm telling you what I did. I'm not telling you to do what I did, but I'm going to tell you what I did. I had enough discipline. When I started working, I had a 401k account, and I saved 15% of my money in that account. And they said, that's not a lot. It wasn't that bad, because as you make more money, you normally paying more taxes. And because it was pre-taxed, I was able to put more up, and actually was able to offset my taxes. So yeah, I didn't make as much bring home as I could have, but it was better than trying to actually save 15% of my paycheck after tax. So, things like health insurance, 401ks, flexible spending accounts, depending on who you work for, a lot of those things are pre-taxed. So the company and the federal government is incentivizing you by making them pre-tax to take advantage of those benefits, And then if your company has a company match, that's free money. So if you're not going to do 15%, so I'm giving career advice now. If you're not going to do 15%, at least take the company match. If your company's matching 3%, at least put 3% away in the in your I was going to say TSP. I used to work for DOD, y'all. So at least put 3 to 4%, whatever the company's matching, at least take that. That's free money. And then of course you have what they call a vesting period. And after, whether it's 3 years, I worked at the time, it was 3 years. After 3 years, that was my money. I didn't put the money in, they just matched it, but that became my money after 3 years. So take that at a minimum. So again, I didn't have the luxury like Keena did to save that money. So I'm just giving you, and I'm just letting you know that what I took advantage of was the 401k. And most 401ks will let you borrow against your that's your money, against your money. So when I left federal service, I literally cashed out my 401k. I don't think it was a lot because it was right after the housing crisis. And I may have had maybe $20,000. That's how I started my company. Now,
well, at least you had $20,000 to start your company. I didn't have that. So let's back up, because my story isn't all that glamorous, even though I was able to save money. Mm-hmm. My story wasn't all that glamorous because I was a new divorced wife with 3 children. So I'm speaking right now to the single mother.
Come on.
Trying to figure out these part-time jobs that I have, or maybe even my full-time job that I have is not paying me enough money, mm-hmm. but I have another skill that I am licensed in, or I have another skill that I have a certificate in,
or a degree
in.
Right.
And I know that if I was to walk in entrepreneurship in that, I know the potential of how much money I could possibly make. So for me, how I transitioned, let's not get it twisted. I worked in the mall. Mm-hmm. I worked these retail jobs, mm-hmm. and I was part-time working at Trident Tech as an adjunct cosmetology instructor. So I would work one job during the day, and in the evening, I would go work a part-time job. So moving from state to state, when you are trying to wait on the license to come through, when you're waiting for the reciprocity, sometimes it could take a couple months.
Right.
So for me, being that I knew that was going to happen, I did have another stream of income coming in that I wish not to speak about. I was able to save those checks, and I was able to pay my bills off of one of those jobs. And then the other job was just like the spending money.
So what we're saying is, no matter what your situation is,
there's a way.
There's a way. You got to find it. Yeah. And there's a saying that says, opportunity. What's they say? I'm gonna say it this way: opportunity doesn't knock; it sits in the corner quietly, waiting to be noticed. Mm. So why do I say that? You have to have enough discernment to see opportunity when it's slapping you in the face. And some of y'all who watching me, you realize that your company is not going to promote you for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And some of us allow our situations to beat us upside the head. Because we should be doing something more, but we don't believe enough in ourselves yet to step out. Mm-hmm. Some of y'all ain't ever going to get promoted. And I don't say that to be mean. Some of you guys, the employers or people around you may be intimidated by you. So that may just be a reason for you to maybe figure out how to take this step into entrepreneurship. So I don't want to beat that horse.
Right. But you have to plan. You have to plan. You got to sit down and you have to do your numbers. You got to work your numbers. And, I had employees that worked in my salon, mm-hmm. that they had other jobs before they became full-time in the salon.
Right.
And one of those people, they had a hard time letting go, and they didn't let go for like 3 or 4 years. And it wasn't until I think they got enough confidence on their own with building their skill level, along with building the clientele, till they finally got to the point where they let their job go. But a lot of people don't want to let their job go because they don't want to let go of the benefits.
That security blanket.
They don't want to let go of the benefits.
But you never, ever, I have to say this very carefully. You're never, ever going to get to the legacy building that you should have working for somebody else. Mm-hmm. There's only a few career fields, and there's a few that I can throw off my head. There are only a few that will let you really, really earn your value working. That's not the reality for most of us. Mm-hmm. Right. Someone pays you $100, $200, $80,000. They're gonna make you earn that check. They're not giving that away.
Gotcha.
So you have to look down on the inside of you, pray, ask God. I hate to get spiritual, but again, I don't. And figure out what's on the inside of you that someone is willing to pay for. There's something that you can bring to the market that other people would pay for. And I'm not talking about being an imitator. I'm talking about what is it that you can bring to the world that you can do better than anybody else. And a lot of the times those are our hobbies and not the things that we see pursuing as a business. You may be a great baker. Oh, girl, you can bake that cake. But for whatever reason, everybody tells you, girl, you should have a bake store or you should open a bakery, and you want because you're afraid. But that's the very thing that holds the potential of bringing you to your wealthy place. Because that's the stuff that you would do for free. I tell people, I had matter of fact, one of my little proteges called me last week. He said, Mr. Kurt, I want to change career fields. And I listened to him and I said, he wanted, and he may or may not hop on here, but I don't think he'll mind sharing this. I'm not going to call his name. He says, I want to go into the financial industry. I'm just listening. And I said, but why? He said, because that's what I want to do something that doesn't require me to do a lot of work. I said that we off already. Why would you want to do something that doesn't require any effort? I said, no one has ever got rich based on convenience. Success is not based on convenience. It's not possible. See, everyone wants to look at LeBron James, and LeBron James is earning a great paycheck, as you know, but look at all of the years that he sacrificed before he got a check. Look at all those basketballs he shot when there was no check. So what are you willing to invest in yourself every day to get the success that's ultimately destined for you? I encourage people, if you could spend 30 minutes a day on honing your craft, whatever that is, there's 365 days in a year. You spent more than 100 hours investing in your craft. And most of the times we can't step out into what we believe we know we could do with a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of push, and maybe a little bit of capital behind us, because we have not developed the confidence that we needed. But you're not proficient. You haven't done the things for free. You can go on LinkedIn, there's free classes. Right. Everyone's offering free classes today. There is no excuse for us not achieving. Me and my son had a conversation in the car, and please jump in because I'll just talk. Me and my son had a conversation in the car last week, and we were talking about school. And I said, son, do you know why I go to school so much? He was like, no. I said, because school is cheating. He looked at me puzzled. I said, I'd rather pay for school because they're going to tell me what to study and what to learn. I get to study around, and I'm in a PhD program, but I'm around some of the world-renowned scholars in management and leadership. It's cheating. They're going, instead of me having to spend weeks in studying, reading a stack of books, they're going to tell me read these 5. So look how much money I save by making the investment in me. So, it's easy to have a coach, then go ahead and learn on your own. I look at education as coaching. You don't have to always go to someone's quote unquote university or technical college, but who are you being mentored by? Whether that's paid or whether that's voluntary, someone has to sow seeds into you to get you to where you ultimately need to be. The whole point here is to speed up the learning process so we can get there faster. And one of the ways we do that is through education, coaching, mentoring, training by folks who not just slightly above where you want to be, but way above where you want to be, because that in and of itself will pull you into your greatness. You want to go to the next question?
All right, let's go to the next question. I'm going to skip down to, should I hire family? should I hire family?
I want to see what you got to say.
The answer is HE double hockey sticks. No.
I'm with you.
Because when you got to fire people,
dude, I have,
and I'm gonna say Negroes because we Negroes. When you got to fire Negroes,
I say I'm with you.
That's drama.
Now look, can you trust your family? Sometimes. But I make it a habit, and I'm with you, Ken. I didn't know what you was gonna say. I'm of the opinion that I try not to hire my family when possible. I rather just, if I need to help them, let me just help them. I don't want to hire them.
But I think sometimes people hire family because they may not have to pay them as much as they would somebody else because they're just getting started. Like, and they're just getting started, and
Yeah.
it's like, hey, I would love to help you, and I'm like, okay, I can pay you, but I can only pay you this amount. And a lot of times family will take that lower, you know, cost.
But here's
not cost, but lower
here's
pay.
the challenge. Our family members, when you quote on, because you know, I believe that y'all all gonna hit it at some point, but our family members have this sometimes feeling of entitlement. Once you do arrive, now you paid them for a service that they gladly rendered at whatever price that y'all agreed to. But what happens is, if you find yourself in overwhelming success, our families have a tendency to make us feel guilty and make us feel obligated to them. Girl, I helped you win. Man, I was there when. And we're not discounting that. But here's the thing, when it goes back, because every business goes through ebbs. Every business goes through ebbs and flows. Everybody, just like your life has ebbs and flows, every business goes through ebbs and flows. And I remember, I won't call names, I hired a family member one time, and I made some decisions in the company that I thought was in the best interest of the company. And my family member got upset. Me and my family member did not speak for almost a year and a half. The only reason why we started speaking is because I lost my spouse. I'm not laughing about that, but I lost my spouse, and so we had to speak. But had that not happened, we might not still be on speaking terms today, because this person felt that I should have consulted them, but I took the risk. I put that bread up. I was out here flying on airplanes, meeting with customers, trying to get these accounts. But they felt, because they played a fairly decent role in the company, they felt that I was now supposed to check in with them. So if you do employ your family, just make sure you have the tough conversations and try to separate business life from family life. And most people say they're going to do that, but when the rubber really hits the road, most can't.
So we have a comment.
Okay.
A comment says, "Now you paid them to be by your side, so when you make it, and they feel like they've made it." So I guess when they feel like, hey, you made it, I made it, so
what's up?
We just equally as successful because I was here by your side the whole time.
And I don't argue with that. But then sometimes they start demanding things from you in terms of compensation that they couldn't get on the street. So you paid them because that was your family. You probably paid them more than you should have. And this is an assumption, maybe based on skills that they really didn't have, but because that was your family. And so then you find yourself, well, now I'm eating into my profits. And again, if this is what you decide to do, I support you, but I just try to stay away from it. I was going to give you the other reasons. So, sometimes we pay our family members more than market price, more than what they would made on the other side. And we give them a certain level of comfort. Sometimes we don't hold them to a certain standard. We do it. That's such and such. That's my cousin. That's my such and such, So sometimes we do the business a disservice because we should have gotten for the amount of money we were paying, we could have got someone that was going to bring more value to the business. And so we only got a certain amount of resources coming into the company. And your success as an entrepreneur is based on how well you deploy that capital in the organization.
All right.
Period.
Let's move on to the next question. How much should I pay myself?
Well, first of all, you have to pay yourself something. Too many entrepreneurs don't pay themselves.
You gotta pay yourself.
You have to pay yourself.
Yeah.
And too many entrepreneurs have businesses and don't get paid. Now, I recognize there's times where it get tough and you got to lean in. I get it. That's what we signed up for. But you can't go 3 and 4 years and you ain't got paid.
Well, that's because a lot of people that don't really understand business structure, they will pay themselves last, like eat the crumbs off of what's left on the business versus putting themselves on the payroll as an employee and paying themselves a check.
Right.
Like the rest of their staff as well.
And sometimes it just comes down to us just knowing our businesses and understanding our expenses. And I think sometimes we don't know how to manage based on what they call the profit and loss statement.
True.
What comes in, maybe I shouldn't have hired Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in order for me, because here's the reality: if you can't finish the race, whether you ran out of capital, whether your mental health was challenged because of all the pressure, the business dies. Right. So you have to protect you to protect the business. Mm-hmm. Now, I recognize we all find ourselves in rough spots, but then that's when you got to be, as the owner, and protecting you. You know, the goose that laid the golden egg. If you die, it's no more golden eggs being laid. So you have to protect you. And sometimes that means making the tough to let people go for your own mental health. Because if you can't run the race, then everything you've worked for the last year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years can potentially go down the drain. And that's what we can't do. We have to protect you, the entrepreneur, the person who took the risk. Because we need you to live to fight another day.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But, we see too many entrepreneurs who just do not do self-care in terms of paying themselves. Mm-hmm. Not paying yourself too much. And you got to be able to look at the numbers and understand what's fair. Get you a good accountant, a good bookkeeper who can help you understand if you're not mathematically inclined, and everyone brings their own strengths and weaknesses to any business. Get you a good bookkeeper, a good CPA who can say, no, you have the money here. If you cut this expense, and this expense, which you don't need, and there's your $10,000 a month or your $20,000 a month or whatever that number is that can compensate you. It may be 5. The number is not important. What's important is that we get you in a consistent flow, that the fruits of your labor takes care of you.
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to save this other question to the very end because I know it's lengthy. But there's another question that I get asked often. People DM me and they ask me this question a lot. And that question is, what do you do when the industry is changing and question. What you were used to doing is no longer working?
Wow.
So what do you do when you're at that crossroad? And how do you move forward when things are changing?
You have to reinvent yourself. And every industry changes. I mean, let's use a great example. Let's look at the taxi industry. Uber came along. That whole model didn't change. Mm-hmm. So what value can the taxi industry offer that they're not getting from Uber? So as entrepreneurs, we have to grow and evolve, and we got to stay up with what's happening. What we can't do, there's a great book that I recommend every entrepreneur to read called E-Myth Mastery. It's a guy named Michael Gerber who wrote the book. He talks about working on your business versus working in your business. Mm-hmm. When you work in your business, let's use the cosmetology example. You're a former cosmetologist. Well, you're still a cosmetologist. But if the cosmetologist is just focusing on clicking the curling iron, ordering product and not looking to see what competition moved in down the street, what prices are they charging? Right. The entrepreneurial stuff. The entrepreneurial stuff is the vision casting, coming up with strategic direction for the business, figuring out how the service offerings are going to change to keep up with what's happening in the market, figuring out what services to add or subtract to remain competitive. If you're still doing, and I don't know the hairstyle, so I'm not a stylist. If you still doing this particular hairstyle, they don't do that anymore. It's still on your menu and ain't nobody ordering it. There's a problem. Right. So understanding what's hot, what's not, staying up with trends, keeping up with pop culture because you are in the beauty business. Right. You got to figure out what trends you need to be following based on your industry. So, should you be looking at Fox Business? Should you be looking at, certain culture creators in your industry and see where the trend is going? I'm not a hockey player, but the famous Wayne Gretzky example. Wayne Gretzky was a great hockey player. And he talked about it's not being where the puck is. The puck is the thing they skate, that slides from the ice that they try to shoot toward the goal. He says, but the goal is to figure out where the puck's going. So I don't want to know where the puck is. Mm-hmm. Where's the industry moving? Right. And can I move an industry? Now, one of these things that I think, and I really attribute you for doing a great job of doing this. You stayed ahead of your industry. You've kind of helped set trends. So I remember when you wrote your book and then you created a podcast. And not that there were not other podcasts out there, but for what you were bringing to the industry was very different than what we saw out there. And then
Right.
now some of the other directions you've gone, you've always tried to stay either with the trend or ahead of the trend, and broke before it broke. And then when you saw a market get saturated, you pivoted.
Pivot.
So like this is what happened to Blockbusters. Blockbusters didn't see Netflix and online streaming coming, and then they saw it, but they didn't respect it.
Hold up. They didn't even see the red box.
They didn't respect it.
And Redbox didn't see Netflix and Hulu taking them up out of business.
And if you don't,
still got Redbox.
Yeah.
But it's not popping like it used to be.
Now you got TV Zion and Pluto TV.
A lot of stuff.
You
don't have to leave your house to go to the movies anymore.
Direct TV and Dish Network in trouble.
Yeah.
So your job is to be able to is to recognize a trend and understand where the industry is moving. And if you're not able to do that successfully, just open your eyes.
Right.
If you're not able to do that successfully, your long time tenure in that space is limited, or you're gonna be a dinosaur.
Absolutely. I remember when I was doing live classes on Facebook free before I saw it. And I'm not saying that there weren't other people doing it, but amongst the group of people that I know in my industry that are educators, I didn't see many people doing that. And I did that for a long time, well, a couple years, and said, okay, I need to do some of these virtual classes to where people can actually get in a classroom with me live online. And it's just those people that want to learn that information. And it developed into teaching platforms, it developed into, coaching, it just kept on, I kept on finding, it's like along the way, the Lord was showing me another piece to add to the business.
And you're not going to know all the answers.
No, you're not.
Stop feeling like I can't move forward. Because I remember back when you were doing classes on Big Marker. We talking
Marker.
We talking
back in 2015. So all this, I'm doing virtual class. I was doing that a long time ago. And I remember starting off with like 3 people would sign up and take a $35 class. Like I wanted to see how the market was responding to that. And so I'm like, okay, so people pay $35 for this information and I'm giving away a lot of information. Right. So I need to up the ante. And mind you, it was a faith walk.
Right.
Because I would only have maybe like 3 or 4 people signed up, and then I would do it again. And then I would have more people sign up, 10 people signing up. And then I said, okay, this is working, but the platform for me wasn't working. Right. So, I decided to just do, use a different platform. Right. But the more and more I did that, it just kept growing. It just kept growing and growing. I tried like Periscope, I tried a couple of different platforms to find out what was really working, even like Facebook groups, before Facebook groups got to what it was, I would do a Facebook group just for a class.
Right.
And then, just delete the group once it was over. But I was wading in the water. I was putting my foot out there to see how the market would grasp to the information that I was, teaching and using these different types of platforms. And then I found, what worked for me. And then even recently, during COVID, I switched to another platform that's even better. So, it's like trial and error.
So, regardless, and she's talking from the cosmetology perspective,
right?
But regardless of what your industry is, look and see what they're doing today.
Right.
And don't just look just like but really try to understand the psyche behind why they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
If they're moving, especially when you start talking about large companies, there's a whole strategy team their whole objective is to figure out how to move, how to increase market growth, how to increase market share, and how to segment, dice up their market so that they can better serve their customer. All customers are not good customers, and you got to be willing to fire your customers. And one way you fire your customers sometimes is by upping your price. When you are producing something at a certain level and you have a certain amount of value, there's a strategy, and we won't get into it here. We're not teaching the class, but there's a strategy that's called being different. You differentiate yourself. You're not going to eat at give me a restaurant. You're not going to eat it. You're not going to eat at
Ruth
Denny's.
Chris.
Yeah, Denny's and Ruth Chris is a different service offering.
Yeah.
And so if you go to Ruth Chris expecting Denny's prices, you're gonna get your feelings hurt
Quick.
And if you go to Denny's looking for Ruth Chris service and menu selection, you're gonna get your feelings hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But they know who their market is,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't try to confuse their customer. I see this way too often.
Right.
People think that they're XYZ
Mm-hmm.
and they operate like, get an example. Folks act like they Walmart in terms of behavior, customer service, experience,
Mm-hmm.
but they want to charge Nordstrom prices, Neiman Marcus prices. It doesn't match.
Work. Right.
The price has to match the experience. That's why Starbucks can get away with a $5. Their prices have been going up. $6 for a cup of coffee.
But
Dunkin'
Dunkin'
gives you a good experience at $2, $3. And if you catch the happy hour, it's a great day.
Hey, but Dunkin' got some good coffee though.
But
you can't get the secret menu.
Right.
You can't get all of these extra things that Starbucks offer. And they have, their retail. They offer a lot more. And Dunkin' has theirs too. But it is a different experience.
It's a different experience.
And you're just going to have some customers, this is what they're drawn to. That's what they like. And no matter how good Dunkin' coffee might be, they ain't going to Dunkin'. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you're going to have some vice versa. But one thing I can say is do not be afraid to be different as an entrepreneur. Do not be afraid to be different. And don't be afraid if you're not in like the cliques and the groups and you stand out alone, because I have walked, and Kurt can attest to this. I have walked this road by myself. I have a friend or two that supports in terms of all us doing the same thing, and we support each other. But for the most part, I've never been a part of the teaching cliques. I don't get asked to be a part of certain things. And I know why. Is because one, I'm different. Two, I'm strong in my material, my delivery. So sometimes that could be intimidating. Not to say people are scared of me, but sometimes it could be intimidating. They may feel like, hey, my shine might get dulled, and that's not my intentions at all. And then the other is that I work. I feel like I work better. Not being tied to or attached to a certain genre of education. It just sets me apart.
Right.
And then last but not least, people know there's a premium because I value what it is that I bring to the table. I value my product. So when you value your product and you stand out and you're of value, and the people that are searching for what it is you have to offer find you, they're a customer for life.
Right.
And I mean, I can attest to so many things. Just being a salon owner, my salon was freaking different. We were selling virgin hair. First salon in Charleston, South Carolina to sell virgin hair. Sold virgin hair. Other people were sending people to my salon just to buy the hair. No beauty supply store had what I had. No other salon. I was always like ahead of, not the time, but I was always just ahead of the caliber of maybe people that I knew in the industry. And I just did different things. Not to say that they were, on a lower level than me. They weren't. But the things that I did just were different, but they were of value.
And I would say this, I would even tell you to find any entrepreneur who watching us, find you some entrepreneurial, like-minded people who are in different industries than you.
Facts.
When you find folks in the same
Facts.
industry, sometimes it often creates this unspoken competition.
Yeah.
And that free flow of ideas and thought processes that maybe that they normally would share with someone who's not in the industry with them, they may not share it with you because you might be viewed as competition.
Yes.
So create relationships with folks in different industries. And that way, that when you have this, you can have this free exchange of ideas and no one feels like you're trying to get their bag.
Right. And just own it. Just own that, hey, I have this whatever your maybe your store or whatever your business is, and this is who we cater to. This is the type of clientele that we cater to. Own it.
Right.
Don't be like switching up the game in the middle of the play because, oh well, I need to do what so and so is doing because you see that working for them. Right. Because then you'll lose your passion and you'll lose your drive. But hey, remember, take all things to the Father in prayer.
And even with that, sometimes when we watch other people and we try to shift and do what they do, you can tell when when someone is operating outside of their domain.
Right.
So find your spot in the lane.
Genuine.
And do what it is that no one else can do like you, because then you can demand a premium in your pricing. Mm-hmm. But if everyone is selling ice cream cones, what makes your ice cream cone different?
So different. Right.
So it's too many alternatives.
Right.
So you want to do something that's unique, that not everyone can do. Matter of fact, I was watching the show on YouTube this weekend, and there's a garage in LA that they do all the high-end cars, and there's no other competition out there on the West Coast like them. Period.
Why are they so different?
Because they do a great job. They do a lot of the stuff in-house, and they just go up and above the Call of Duty from a customer service perspective.
Yeah.
So people pay for customer service.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's why you go to Louis Vuitton or Gucci or Birkin or whoever your favorite, because there's a certain experience you're going to get there that you're not going to get.
Let me tell you,
Coach Factory.
They go above and beyond. I mean, they will sing when you get that email and they're like, hey,
you want us to shut the store down?
Yes. Do you want a personal shopping experience?
Right.
And, this is what we have to offer you. Do you want to set it up and you want to have a party? Like you want to bring in a couple people, like a small intimate setting for a shopping experience for you and your friends, Like to get that email, I was like, oh, okay. It kind of, you know what I'm saying? It puts you in this mindset of I'm a very important person. And all clients want to feel that.
But let's give another example. So we talked about Louis Vuitton, but what about the Louboutin? Remember, he started out his company.
Oh, yeah.
He never intended to be a mass production company.
True.
He wanted you to come in, get your shoe custom, actually size your shoe, create a mold,
foot.
And you go and they send you to the store, send a catalog, and you would just pick out what style you wanted, and they would send it to you in your size. They never intended on being a mass production house. However, they say, hey, I'd be crazy not to go get this money. So they did, but they still, for their exclusive clients, still push for you to go get that mold done at $5,000 and fly back and forth between America and Europe and do that 3 fittings. They still do that. Right. And that's a different experience from the person who goes to the Louboutin store.
I don't think a lot of people know that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the celebrities, that's how they have these different shoes that Louboutin would make for Prince. I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but Prince wore Louboutins, and so did Michael Jackson, like a lot of celebrities. But because they had the custom mold of their feet, they could make specialized shoes just for them, for their shows and whatever they wanted it for. They could say, these are some of the details that I want in the shoe. And because they had that mold, listen, that's what it was all about.
Absolutely. And I know we get close to our time here, but one of the things I really want to admonish people to do is to spend some time watching documentaries in your area. So if you're an entrepreneur or you're entrepreneurial or you're an aspiring entrepreneur, start educating yourself on the area, the industry that you want to service. And, there's documentaries on everything. So from Netflix to Hulu to Amazon to YouTube, and just start getting smarter in what it is that you do. Find that icon or two in your industry that stirs you. When you see that stuff, it moves you, it motivates you. Right. So I'm a government contractor. So Howard Hughes is like the man. Howard Hughes was like one of the first government contractors. He did a whole bunch of stuff from movies to making planes. I mean, this was a bad boy. So go back and look at the history of the people who kind of pioneered the industry. So number one. Number two, I recommend every entrepreneur watch The Men Who Made, what's it called? The Men Who Built America. About dude, that's mandatory
it was on,
watching.
Was it Amazon Prime?
I think it's on Amazon Prime now, but I think it initially debuted on TLC. And
you're right. It was,
and it shows their struggle. It showed how Rockefeller was running out of money, and it showed how they were having to be resourceful and come up with new ways and pivoting and partnering. Dude, that's mandatory watching. A third movie, the McDonald's founder, dude. Some of these movies, if you just watch them over and over and over, the amount of business clues that they drop.
Right. Yes.
And I could just give you list after list after list. But if you're serious about developing the mindset of an entrepreneur, industry doesn't matter. It's a mentality. If you're serious about developing an entrepreneurial mindset, you got to watch The Man Who Built America. You got to watch Founder. And what was the other one I said?
The Lifetime one.
That was The Man Who Built America.
Men Who Built America.
The Founder.
The Founder.
I think I talked about just get you some standard.
I forgot.
Some standard documentaries, dude. Gotta do it.
Yeah.
Look at the life of Steve Jobs. Look at all these people who innovated.
Even the gentleman that started Amazon.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos. His old videos. All this stuff most of this is free.
Guys, if a man could start in his garage
with a makeshift sign, spray painted Amazon.
And I'm gonna say this because during COVID, a lot of people turned entrepreneurs. Like a lot of people started at-home businesses. People was out here making masks. People was out here making hair products in their kitchen. People got into the candle business. Like people just started like, I got to make some bread.
I got to do something.
And if that passion, if it took COVID to push you into that, I wouldn't give up on it. I would definitely do my research and find out what does the market call for this particular business. What is my value proposition? What problems am I solving by offering this type of product? Because product moves. And I'm gonna tell y'all something, people have money to spend. It's just they figure out the value of what's important and where they want to spend their money. So do not count folks' pocketbooks thinking, well, it's COVID and I don't know if I should really, venture out. And guess what? You might have to start small. Nothing wrong with starting small.
Amazon store. You can start an Amazon store for what? $150.
You can start an Amazon store. You can start an Etsy store. There are a lot of these websites out here that you can partner with, e-commerce stores that you can partner with, and you can literally sell your product, and you didn't have to build this whole database. They already have the algorithm created to where your business is in there, and people just go and they're looking for beauty products, or they're going and they're looking for kitchen products.
Plug and play.
It's plug and play.
You go to Amazon is nothing but a huge huge search engine for product.
And guess what?
You put your product on there.
Yeah, the celebrities did it. They sure did.
XYZ, your stuff gonna come up.
Your stuff gonna
come up. For $150 a month, dude. That's the easy button.
That's right. And guess what? You don't have to be famous for your products to sell. People are just looking for stuff.
He who solves problems gets paid. Straight up. You solve someone's problem, they will pay you for solving their problem. Of course, as long as it matches their price point and all that good stuff. But he who solves problems gets paid.
Right. Absolutely. So don't be afraid to step out on faith. Do your research first. You have to be smart and you have to be a good steward over the business that you're starting. Pray about it. Ask God, like, should I go in this direction? And I mean, we don't always hear an audible voice. You just will know in your knower, in your spirit.
I feel like I should do this.
And then sometimes, God will send somebody your way, or you'll hear the people keep saying, you really should start this business. You da 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 da. I mean, it's like right in your face. So there are steps you have to plan. I wouldn't tell anybody to just, you always hear this thing, you got to jump, you got to leap. There's nothing wrong with jumping and leaping, but have a plan of action. And guess what? Your plan may divert.
Yeah.
Your plan may change, your plan may pivot, your plan may go in another direction, because once you get into it, you're making discoveries along the way.
Yep.
And you may have to add this, add that, take this out. Guess what? Because you're doing it and you're putting your faith into action, God always makes a way.
Absolutely.
He always does. He never fails. So that's why we try to push you back to God, because guess what? We could tell you stuff all day long. You can apply some of these principles and they might not never work. But when you apply them with faith and you take the knowledge and then you research what you're hearing, and that gets down in your spirit, God will start speaking to you by you just reading. You'll start reading something and then boop, an idea. Next thing you know, boop, it's like it all just starts clicking and starts making sense. And then with that comes wisdom.
Part of the faith walk is research.
Absolutely.
The scriptures say, I ain't come here to teach, but the scripture says that a man who does not sit down and count the cost first, the Bible calls him a fool. Mm-hmm. He says, he talked about the man built his house on the sand, meaning he had no foundation. He didn't have a clue what the heck he was doing. Because had he done a little research, he'd have known this ain't gonna hold. Mm-hmm. So count the cost.
Absolutely.
Have a plan.
Absolutely.
Talk to somebody who's in the space you want to be in. Ask them some questions. Mm-hmm. See, the best opportunity you have of picking someone's brain is when you first start, because you're not a threat.
Right.
So before the business gets started and you find somebody who's doing what you want to do, send them a note on LinkedIn.
Say it ain't so.
Reach out to them. Say, hey, man, I really admire what you're doing. Stroke their ego. Uh-huh. Tell me how you got started. You stand to get the most free advice from said mentor before you put your business toe in the water. That is
such a true statement.
So before you start the enterprise, get all the free advice you can get. Because understand, that same mentor, long as you ain't making no noise and he quote unquote ahead of you, he gonna freely give you. But when it appears that you're gaining too much ground, human nature says survival of the fittest. Human nature says, no, you're doing a little better than I thought you was. I ain't helping you.
And I didn't expect for you to get here that fast.
Right. Now, you got some genuine people that regardless, they're going to help you. Yeah. But you got some people who get in their feelings and say no. So before you start that enterprise, before you go and file those corporate paperwork, and I do recommend everybody to at least create an LLC or S corporation.
That's our next question.
So why incorporate?
Okay.
Incorporation, we're going to leave with this. Incorporation, this is the last question unless y'all throw something in the comments. Incorporation is a form of asset protection. The government sees a company as another person. So when you file your sole proprietorship, the government and the attorney who's going to potentially sue you if you mess them up for whatever reason sees you as one and the same. So if you go out here and you start your company up and you give it a name and you have no corporation documents, now you can file a corporation for $300 and I can tell you how. Or you can go and find you an attorney and he can do the same thing for $1,000. It's up to your risk appetite. But to go out here with no corporate entity, no articles of organization if you were an LLC, no articles of incorporation if you were S corp or C corp, it's crazy. So you don't need a company is like insurance. You don't need it till you need it. You don't need car insurance until you get in the wreck. I mean, we know you need car insurance, but you really need car insurance when you get a wreck. Companies the same way. Long as everything's going good, you ain't even gonna realize you gonna forget that you filed that paperwork. But now that somebody wants to sue you, and now there's no person. Remember, the government sees a corporation like an entity, a person. So now instead of them suing the person, your corporation, they're suing you because there's no difference between you and it. The corporation puts a veil of protection between yourself and the rest of the world. So when you go to the land, when you're doing your landscaping and you mess the man, the lawnmower catches a rock and it busts the man window out. You want him to sue the company. Hopefully y'all can amend and figure out how to make him happy and make him whole. But let's just say worst case scenario, you can't make him happy. You don't want him suing you, Bob. You want him suing Bob's organization.
Right.
Because if he sues Bob, not only your personal liabilities are now hanging in the balance. That's what happens to a lot of our sole proprietors.
Yeah.
Everything's good until something goes bad. And now that you got a disgruntled customer and you don't know who you're going to service, is one day you're going to just get pissed off and say, I'm going to sue you. And now not only is your business assets up for grabs, but because you're a sole proprietor, your personal assets up for grabs. So your house, your car, your personal savings account, the corporate structure puts a barrier between the outside world and you. So now when you have a corporate structure, only thing they can sue is XYZ company. They can't sue you personally. Now, when something happens and the lawyers get involved, anything that's in the company is up for grabs if it's bad enough. But here's the beauty of a company. If it gets bad enough, you can always shut that company down and start another one. You can't shut you down.
Right.
Get a new social security number. That's hard. It's a lot harder to rebuild you personally than it is to start a new company. You can shut that company down tomorrow, start a new company, get a new tax ID number, and start over. Now, hopefully it never comes to that, but you can toss that aside a whole lot easier than you can your personal life. When somebody come after you and they sue you personally, and now you got all these judgments and lawsuits, and they trying to garnish your wages, and they trying to take your personal assets, your 401k, if the problem is bad enough, your 401k, and all these things you worked your whole life for, just don't ignorantly put that stuff on the table. Like I said, it's not a big deal until something happens. Just like insurance. It's not a big deal until something happens.
Absolutely.
So
that's true. And I've seen I've had a lot of coaching students of mine when they first got into my coaching program, and they were sole proprietors as hairstylists. And even if you are a booth renter in someone's salon, you are a business within a business. So it's smarter for you to have an LLC to protect you versus having a sole proprietor. And I know a lot of times it'd be about money, but honey, you better find that money.
Find that $300. You can do it for $300 to $500.
Yes.
If it means you got to wait an extra month before you start an operation, I'd rather you do that.
Right.
Because once you get into the flow, is most of the time we get so busy in the day-to-day, we don't go back to do the things that we should have done when we started. And I'm going to talk about us. And I know everybody who on here may not look like us, but these are the things that we're not being taught in our communities. Not being taught.
That's true.
Now, part of you can say, well, we're not being taught, but a part of it is we didn't go look for the knowledge either.
Right.
So sometimes we're not going and getting a good accountant. You can't get your taxes when you're a company. Don't go get your taxes done at H&R Block.
No, as a hairstylist, do not go get your taxes done at H&R Block.
Regardless of what kind of business you are,
go and find a CPA.
and if you're really bad about yourself, get you a CPA and a tax attorney. Now, you deal with some of the bigger tax offices. They will normally have a CPA and tax attorneys on staff. Now, that's not going to be a $200. It's not going to be a $200 tax filer.
Because what you don't want is the IRS, baby, to come and audit you.
That might be a couple $1,000s or more. I pay more than that to get my taxes done.
Yes.
But here's the situation. If I find myself in the crosshairs of the tax man, that tax attorney and that CPA are gonna go to bat for me. You're not getting that from H&R Block.
No, you're not.
They're not doing that. And if the little bit of protection they are giving you, it's because they did not push the envelope and getting you all the maximum money back you could. Because see, they ain't H&R Block don't want to get sued either. So they're gonna only take the minimum exemptions, and then they don't even know what industry you're really in. So sometimes, like if you're an investor, there are tax advantages that are available for you. Depending on what industry you're in, you want a tax professional. Tax professionals are like doctors. Find you a tax professional that services your industry. Don't you go find no tax guy. You a cosmetologist. No, you are a government contractor, and you go into Keena's tax person. You about to be messed up. Because see, first of all, there's going to be some exemptions that tax attorney is not going to know, because that's not the service market he services.
Right.
So find you a tax attorney or a tax accountant, a tax accountant, a CPA who does customers like you.
Right.
If you're the only customer that he got, and you say you in industry X and he serviced mostly industry X and you in industry Y and he ain't got no other clients in your same industry, run from him.
Right.
Because there's going to be money you're leaving on the table. And it's not that he's a bad guy. He just doesn't know.
This doesn't know. Because
he has had no reason to learn because he's been servicing this market for so long.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that sums it up. I think that's where we needed to end off. And we are so thankful, that we were able to answer some of your questions. We have lots more, but we only had an hour time slot tonight for this, and we wanted to answer the questions that we've been getting emails on and DMs, and we're going to do this again because, like we said, we got more. And hopefully you were able to learn something from this and take some notes. And guess what? We are always open. We're always open for conversation. We're always open for questions. You guys feel free to hit us up in our DMs. Feel free to email us. You can email me at Kina@retailbossbiz.com if you are in the beauty industry and you have questions. If you are a government contractor or just a business owner, period, even though you're a government contractor, you have a lot of experience, other business experience as well. You want to tell them how they can get in contact with you?
I plan on giving my email, but I'll give it to y'all. It's
you can use the Retail Boss.
Kurt. No, I'll give my personal email. It's CAMJR78. That's CAMJR78 @gmail.com. That's my personal. That's not tied in any of my work stuff, but I'll get the email just the same. And if you got a question that you didn't want to put in the comments, maybe we'll do another live just to answer your question.
Right. And if you are on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. And make sure that you share this video that we did, because we want to make sure that everyone gets this information, because these frequently asked questions are they're constant, guys. They are constant. So a lot of entrepreneurs have these questions. So if you know somebody that's an entrepreneur, make sure you share it with them, send them to them in a message or something like that. And make sure you guys follow us on our Instagram page. That is Kurt and Kina. And also follow us on Facebook. That is Kurt and Kina as well.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll see you guys back soon.
We'll see you guys soon. And we wanted to keep them because we get these questions so often. And it's just easier for Kina and I to just blast this out to lots of y'all at one time versus the sidebar conversation. Now, if we get the one-on-one conversation, we will answer it because we just love entrepreneurs.
Right.
But it's easier to disseminate the information in this format.
And I think we'll come back maybe next week again, and we will answer all the frequently asked questions concerning government contracting, because we also know during this time of COVID, a lot of people got into government contracting. And I also taught a 4-week course. Curtis and I together taught a 4-week course on government contracting for beauty industry professionals. So, that is one area that a lot of people don't teach on because they're not in it. They don't know that it even exists. And how I got in it is because, of course, my spouse is a government contractor, and we found a way for me to extend my business to the government. And that for me was amazing. And I'm about 2 years in?
Yeah,
about 2 years in now, and it was great. And during COVID, and even still presently during this time, I still was able to generate income, from the government during this time. Not behind the chair, guys. So again, I just said this earlier. I'm kind of like ahead of, the curve a lot of times, not realizing that something is coming and, God just pushes me in this direction. But that's what happens when you seek him first. And we can't help but to bring this in before we end. But if you do not know the Lord in the free pardon of your sins, and I'm saying this because I don't want to take it for granted that everyone here, has accepted Jesus as your Lord and personal Savior. But I challenge you to try him, because our lives will never be the same because of him. And so I don't want to take it for granted that, you know who the Savior is. So if you don't, I want to invite you right now at this present time. And guess what, guys? It's not all that deep. It doesn't take a lot. But just to speak out of your mouth the words, Lord, I repent from any sins that I may have committed in my life that I don't know anything about, sins that I've committed that I do know about. And Father, I am a human vessel and I need you to come into my heart. I believe that Jesus died on the cross for my sins over 2,000 years ago, that I may have the right to the tree of life. And Father, I've tried it all and nothing's working. During this time of COVID, I didn't know if I was coming or going.
Right.
During this time of COVID in the lockdown, I couldn't even see the forest from the trees. But Father, I am here today repenting and asking you to come into my heart. You are my last hope. And guess what? He ain't mad that he your last hope.
Right.
You're my last hope. So I'm inviting you in. These people have been talking about you all this time. I invite you into my heart and I accept Jesus as my Lord and personal Savior.
And it's that simple, y'all.
And that's it.
It's not deep.
That's it.
You ain't got there with the all thous and the shouts, and man, just have a conversation.
That's a conversation.
And we've both been in places in our lives where no one could help us.
Yeah.
But Jehovah. You know, absolutely. I ain't gonna preach because I can tell you about them $80,000 payrolls, and I ain't had the money.
Tell it.
Shh. So if you're gonna walk into this entrepreneurship in any capacity, you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
When you stare down them payrolls and you got other people that are depending on you to do the right thing so that they can feed their families, this is a huge responsibility, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And Ken and I don't take it lightly, but entrepreneurship has literally changed our lives.
Yes.
Y'all heard my story. I made my first $1 million at 31 years of age. And I ain't no smarter than you. I just knew what God was leading and telling me to do, and I tried him. I walked away from my job. So we were talking about earlier today about walking. Sometimes you gotta know when to jump. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you to jump prematurely. I'm not telling you to do nothing crazy, but when you've educated and you trained and you put yourself in a position to be successful, sometimes you gotta be willing to take the leap. And people sometimes are gonna think you crazy.
Right.
But then they'll think you crazy all the way to the bank. But here's the reality. If you don't do the impossible, you can't do that by yourself. Your situation ain't going to change. You know, some of y'all have legacy that you're trying to build. And I would love to tell you that the legacy that you've created, you'll be able to build through a 9-to-5. And some of you will, but most of you won't, because most of your dreams are bigger than what you currently make.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And sometimes the employer you work for just ain't going to pay you what you're worth. That system is not designed to do that. That system is designed to empower the one who took the leap, which is the owner of that company. And so in order for you to come into your greatness, you got to do what you're being led to do on the inside of you. Save the unsaved. Jeff Bezos, I don't know if Jeff Bezos knows the Lord, but he took a leap. And I honestly believe God speaks to the sinner and to the saint.
That's true.
But the problem is sometimes that the ones who call themselves lovers of God are afraid.
Yes.
They're afraid.
Walking in fear.
Fear is false evidence appearing real. Now, again, we're not telling you to do nothing crazy. But if you feel like you're being led to go down that road, put yourself in a path of progress. Do what you got to do to educate yourself, whether that's getting a mentor, whether that's phoning a friend, whether that's reading a book, whether that's getting you some coaching sessions. It's a lot of stuff you can do for free. But some have been making the same excuse for the last 5 years, talking about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And I'm gonna tell y'all straight up, in 2021, I don't think this world is gonna it's gonna go back to what we knew as normal.
No.
So I'm telling you to reach down on the inside, ask God to give you direction and what to do, and whatever he tells you to do, find out his timing and do it. Mm-hmm. We cannot depend on our government, regardless of how this election turns out, because I've been hearing some stuff on both sides. None of that's important.
Right.
What's important is, what are you going to do to secure the bag for your family? There's people depending on you, whether you're a single mom, whether you're a dad, you feel like you got the world on your shoulders. The greatness is already on the inside of you, but are you going to believe that? Are you going to believe it? Mm-hmm. See, you got enough potential on your brain to bring you into multi-millionaire success. But are you going to use it? Or are you going to stay in the safe zone?
Mm.
And you can stay in the safe zone. God still loves you. You're probably still going to go to heaven if you're saved. But we know the thing that is going to be so sad is when you finally get to heaven and God open that book and show you all the stuff that your life was supposed to be. And the Bible talks about he's going to wipe the tears from your eye when he show you this is what I had for you and this is what you settled for. Now, I'm not going to tell you that when you take this leap that every day it's going to feel like sunshine.
Right.
But I made a decision a long time ago, and I'm going to join you to do the same. I want us to go to the grave empty. Meaning every creative idea on the inside of me, I plan to exploit it to the fullest. To create a financial endowment for my children's children. The Bible says that a good man or woman leaves an inheritance for their children's children, not your kids, your grandkids. Is your job going to give you enough to leave an inheritance for your grandkids? Probably not. Even if you save and live below your means, will it create the wealth that God intended for you to have? And the answer is probably no. I know some folks who have worked their whole life and saved their money and saved $1 million. What they realized that $1 million wasn't as much money as they thought it was. Not when your dreams and your visions is bigger than that. Not when you want to tour the world, not when you want to send your kids to the best schools and give them the best education money can buy. $1 million doesn't go as far as you think it will. Not when you want to buy your mom and your grandma a house and you want to retire people in your family and you want to help the hungry and feed the needy. $1 million don't go very far. So not only are you selling yourself short, but you're not letting God use you the way he wants to be a financial conduit in the earth. This entrepreneurship is serious, y'all. This is just as much a calling as your pastor. Just as gifted. Matter of fact, he can't get what he need to get done without you.
This is true.
Why is it that we have to watch and admire all these other people living the lifestyles that are rich and famous, and you can too? They were willing to do what other people went, so that's why they can live the life that only many would aspire and dream to have. But you have that same thing. They're no different than you. They just did what many were not willing to do, and therefore they live the life that many won't have. But so can you. You can be the Joseph of your family, the Jeff Bezos of your generation.
Wow.
But you just got to be willing to take the leap. A calculated risk, not nothing crazy. Don't put your family in a bad spot. But dig. Some of y'all have already been led and feeling like, man, I should have done this a long time ago, and y'all keep making excuses. But at the end of the day, the only people who suffering is your family. I ain't saying that you're in a bad spot. I ain't saying you ain't living good, but you could be living better. I ain't saying that you ain't eating well, but you could be eating better. And for you not to take the jump is a sign of selfishness and false pride because you feel like you got it all together.
Wow.
And other people's life is laying in the balance because of your lack of obedience to that push on the inside of you. How dare you sell generations short because you're too afraid to get out of your comfort zone. You dare to be uncomfortable. Now, is it all about money? No. But money sure pay for some stuff. I'm going to get off here.
Well, go ahead on and lead us out.
I got on my tirade, man. I'm passionate about this. Yeah. And I want to see your family win. Do I know you personally? No, but I want to see you win. Why Kurt and Keenan got to make all the money? We want you to make the money too. We ain't no smarter than you. We just did what you were willing to do. Pray. Find out what God is leading you to do and do it. I ain't even telling you, you ain't got to be saved. Just do it. I don't know if Jeff Bezos and 50 Cent and Jay-Z know the Lord. Man, they might not. But they just did what they were being led to do. This ain't that deep.
That's true. Amen.
Can you be the change agent for your family and for your community? Where you get out your own way. That's all I got to say, man. Let's go. You and I already led the people in the how to find the Lord.
Oh gosh.
Ain't enough to say. I just want people to get it, babe.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of seeing people who look like me.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it. The government ain't gonna give us no reparations, y'all.
Nope.
Create your own reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Are they deserving? I ain't even a debate I'm gonna get into. But you got to be your own bridge. The government is not going to save us. I don't care whether you Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, People's Party. I could care less. Only person going to save you is
That was the magic word to get cut. They tried to cut us off the internet just now. Don't think anything about that right now.
Not gonna save you. So we got to put ourselves in a position to save us. Save your family, save your kids, save your wife, save your grandmother, save your mother. Come on, man. Those days of living check to check, you got to get sick and tired. So I'm talking to somebody. You got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. When are you going to let these people keep passing you over for promotion and keep telling you, well, next time, I ain't forgot about you? When you going to get tired of that? And the only person who can change that is you. So you got to get enough confidence in who you are and whose you are and step into the unknown. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Success is not based on convenience, y'all. It's not.
No, it's not.
You show me a man that's comfortable, I'll show you a man that did not fulfill his potential. Straight up. Even in exercise, part of growth and muscle growth, if you're a man trying to get bigger, or you're toning if you're a female, you're trying to get your booty to grow, whatever your thing is, part of it is creating discomfort in that part of your body to stimulate growth. These are the laws of nature, y'all. I did not create the system that we live in. All I want you to do is collaborate and cooperate with how you were created. Make yourself uncomfortable. Dream to do the impossible. My mom said, if you shoot for the stars, son, you might just hit the moon. It was a shoot for the moon. You shoot for the moon, son, you might just hit the stars. I think it's the other way around. You get the point. Aim high. The only limiting factor is you. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Will yourself into greatness. And I'm about to go. Until next time.
Till next